We've all read or seen Lord of the Rings, haven't we? Or we've at least heard of it, haven't we? Well, you might not have seen the animated version. I have, obviously, because I'm just about to review it. Hello, welcome to the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyd, and today we are going to be taking a look at Lord of the Rings, the animated version. It's the biggie. It's Lord of the Rings, which obviously it does cast a huge shadow over the fantasy genre. Now, I actually saw this. It was released in 1978, and I remember seeing it on telly as a kid, so I was probably about 10 or 11, and it really did have an influence on me. Let's explore it, shall we? Let's take a look. Based on J.R.R. Tolkien. I've always said Tolkien, but apparently that's wrong. It is wrong. His books. Well, actually, to be precise, this animated version, as I say, 1978, it was directed by Ralph Bakshi. It's going well so far, isn't it, this review? I think that's how you pronounce his name, Bakshi. 1978. It was actually based on The Fellowship, which is book 1 of the Ring, and also The Two Towers, but only half of it. So, because what he wanted to do is he was going to do 2 parts. So he was going to do the 3 books into 2 films. Now, this is a 2-hour film, and so you can pack in a lot of action and a lot of the books into 2 hours. So I guess what happened, though, plot spoiler, kind of, they didn't make part 2. They didn't make it. So this, in effect, is an incomplete Lord of the Rings adaptation, which, and I'm just going to be out front, is a shame, because there's a lot going on in this animated film. There's a lot going on for it, I should say, a lot of positives for it. It is a good, faithful adaptation. They have left out certain things that don't, and according to the director, that don't really move the story along, and that is understandable. And obviously, when you adapt something that is well loved, like Lord of the Rings, you're going to have people that want it faithful and they want every single bit to be in the film. It's not possible. I mean, if you were to do that with Lord of the Rings, as Peter Jackson found out, you would have to do 6, 7, 8 films really to put everything in. And from a directing point of view, do you want everything in? Because certain things do fit a book, but they don't fit a film. Certain things don't work in the film format. And so then that's where the director comes in, because they make the choices about what should go in and what shouldn't go in. Now, I think Ralph Bakshi, I'm so sorry about the pronunciation, he's done a very good job about deciding what to leave in and leave out. Now, I won't go through everything because we've only got a limited time. But what he does leave in is very faithful, and that's a good thing, because in doing research, apparently there was the John Boorman version of Lord of the Rings adaptation. This was before this director got the film rights, and that was, he changed characters, he changed scenes about, he left certain key things out, in my opinion. And so that film may not have been anywhere near what Tolkien wanted or envisaged in his books, whereas this director has come from a good place. His heart's in the right place, in terms of, you can tell it's been created with love, care and attention, and that just shines through all aspects of the production, and the production values are extremely high. One noticeable thing about the animation is they've done, it's not cartoonish, not overly childish and cartoonish. There's a lot of grit behind it, a lot of good textures, a lot of darkness about it. but also, and that's the pure animation, but also they've done rotoscoping, which is, for those of you that don't know, where they film live action sequences and then animate over that and add layers of, drawing and texture and paint, I guess. Collage, sticky back plastic, no, none of that. Just, they draw over that to give the film a more gritty and realistic feel to it. And that really raises this above a lot of animations. Because what they use that for, they use it wisely, they use it very sparingly, in terms of they use it for big battle sequences, and they use it for the more evil characters like Gollum, like the Black Riders and the orcs, and anything to do with the evil side of the characters. And honestly, I remember as a kid being really scared by that. They've got horses that are all rotoscoped, and it really, really is powerful. And the reason why they decided to do that was the director said it was to do with they could get more complex sequences filmed and animated, so that it helped the animators. So when they did big battle sequences, if you've blocked it and choreographed it and as live action, that's so much easier than trying to just draw that from your head or whatever. So, and it really works in that respect. So it adds, and again, because of that dark sort of feel to it, you get that sense of foreboding and evilness that is present within Lord of the Rings. Obviously, there's a spiritual side to Lord of the Rings. And the themes, they're very faithful from the book about the themes, which is obviously good versus evil, corruption, about industrialization and the sort of, destruction of the environment. It's about the fellowship and the bond of friendship and the camaraderie of friendship and the importance of friendship, in not only in the good times but also in the bad times, in the dark times, and about how something so kind of small, let's say as a hobbit, I guess pun intended on that one, something so kind of, what's considered not powerful, like a hobbit, can actually have massive consequences to, in a greater environment. It covers all of those themes, which they didn't shy away. They didn't think, well, this is a kid's cartoon, let's water this down. No, they stuck to their guns. They did a really kind of faithful adaptation. And also, it does, Lord of the Rings has this storytelling element and quality to it, and the mythology and looking at myths and the history. So you have those extra layers, it feels like it actually happened. And, for me, when I read the books, that was the same quality. It feels like you're reading history. The other, as I say, the production values are really good. The acting, the voice acting is good, and they do comedy well when it needs to be. The little hobbits, when they have their little bit of banter, all of that. They equally do the Gandalf, very good. I like the way they portray Gandalf. That sort of grumpy, slightly, grumpy wizard, but yet it's got a heart of gold. And you always get the sense that he's thinking, that he's just wise and he kind of knows what's going on. And then even if he doesn't know what's going on, he gives that impression that he knows what's going on. And so they really were faithful to the characterizations. It's is fast paced. As I say, it's 2 hours long, and you don't get a feeling of this is dragging on a bit, and this is even in the talky bits, because obviously Lord of the Rings there's lots of fighting. But there is quieter moments, there's discovery moments about, what the ring is. There's there is talky bits, if you like, quieter periods of the film. And that, again, they managed to get the pacing just right. And for me, pacing is one of those sort of unsung heroes, if you like, one of those aspects of a film that if it's bad and the pacing starts to sag, you notice. If it's good, you don't notice because you are just enjoying the film, and they managed to do a good job with the pacing. Peter Jackson did say that he was influenced from this version when he then went on to make his live action version, and I can see why, because there are similar decisions about what to leave out and what to leave in, and also the kind of tone and the flavour of it. This director does treat it as though it's real, as though it's history, and it works because of that. Equally, Peter Jackson does the same thing. So I do think that Peter Jackson, you can see where he was influenced, and he's kind of acknowledged that in DVD extras that he was influenced by this. My big shame about this is they didn't make the sequel. It was such a shame because it did make a profit. It made quite a good profit when it came out. Unfortunately, they when they launched it, I think it was Universal Artists, decided not to put part 1 of 2 parts because at the time, in 78, they didn't think that people would go and see half a film, if you like, just part 1. Well, I'm not going to just see that. Oh, how that's changed now, isn't it, with loads and loads of sequels to films. So it's such a shame that if it was made in the wrong time. If it was made 10 years later, they definitely would have, done a sequel. They did try to make a sequel of this, but there was another film company that made The Hobbit, a cartoon version of The Hobbit in 1977, that then was going to do Lord of the Rings, but they were seeing where this one was going to go. And what happened is they then made a sequel to The Hobbit that actually was the sequel to this. It was a completely different company with a different director. That then they kind of did The Return of the King as a sequel to The Hobbit. I haven't seen that. I haven't watched The Hobbit, so I don't know how well that worked out. So that will probably be worth exploring as well, just to see how well they can kind of knit all the mythology and the storylines together. And I think that's, in a way, you can sort of do that because Tolkien has written vast amounts about Middle-earth. So you can kind of piece all of the history of Middle-earth via a different way. So overall, I would say, yeah, it's a good film. It's heavier than I thought it was going to be. It's more grittier than I thought it was going to be. I do have recollections of it being quite gritty. And so I wasn't disappointed with this. Younger children, I don't know. I would say 8 or 9 at the minimum age group, because some of the battle scenes, because of this rotoscoping, actually is quite frightening if you're a young child. And it is one of these films, and for me, as I say, it had a big influence on me because it really stayed with me for years afterwards. And I wasn't totally aware of what it was initially. And then when I came to read the books, X amount of years later, all this imagery started coming back in to my head, and I was thinking, what is all of this? So it was really nice just to go back to, for me, this was my introduction to the Lord of the Rings. And I'm glad it was this production because in a way it was a real nice entry into the whole mythology of Lord of the Rings. So checking out the animated 1978 version. My precious. I did say I wasn't going to do that, but I couldn't resist. Who can? Who can resist the one ring to rule them all? Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have watched this. Yeah, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. I'll be intrigued to hear your opinions about this. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a good addition to Lord of the Rings. Thank you for watching. And remember, yeah, keep it unreal. Hey, hi! We've all read. To do like Alan Partridge. Aha! I am going to resist the temptation to say my precious. Okay. Because I did that in the previous one. Oh, yeah.